Friday, July 14th, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. We're going to look at silver today and whether the stars are aligning for a much higher move in silver. Yes, it has been a frustrating 2.5 years or so for the silver community and the silver squeeze movement, but I've been acquiring silver or stacking since 2003, and I don't have any regrets because silver is a precious metal, and it's a good way of saving, in my opinion. Before we look at silver and the technical picture, I want to talk a little bit about today, 14th of July. So it's the storming of the Bastille in 1789. It's what a lot of people say kicked off the French Revolution 234 years ago. And yes, the official version, of course, is that the French people were sick and tired of the establishment of the king and Marie Antoinette. There's the old quote that she supposedly said, "Let them eat cake," and people were starving. France was up to here in that. But as I'm the home of alternative economics and contrarian views, I'm going to recommend 3 books, actually, that might help you understand what happened in France 234 years ago, what happened in Russia in 1917, and what's happening today to the West. The French Revolution, of course, overturned a lot of the bases of French society, of the French state that had been in existence for about 800 years. It was really quite an astonishing, turn of events. But some people argue that there's more to it. And so the first book I'm going to recommend is The Nameless War, where Captain Ramsey talks about the French Revolution and what he thinks it was all about, and I'll leave it up to you to find out. The second one is Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr. So there you go. And the other one is more about the consequences of what happened in France, economically, monetarily, and this one you're probably familiar with, fiat money inflation in France, well, how it came, what it brought, and how it ended. So one could argue what's happening now in the West with the crazy things that we're seeing going on is they want to overturn the basis of Western society. So, yeah, I have an open mind. That's why I've looked into these things. You might not agree with it, but you might want to look into it by reading, especially these 2 books, The Nameless War and Pawns in the Game. There you go. I'm going to put a link to them in the description. Maybe find a free PDF for you. So back to silver. So yeah, it has been difficult, silver, for the last 2.5 years, only because we had very high expectations. I think it was beginning of February 2021 with the silver squeeze movement. Silver had gone up like over 50% from its lows back in 2020. I think we got down to around 12, and we went all the way up to 30, and everyone thought, oh, we're going to break out. I remember at the time doing a live stream with loads of people like Bill Murphy and others in the community, and I was kind of more not as excited because I know and have seen how the powers that be control not just silver but gold. And why do they do that? Well, because silver is money, really. Why do you think they had to put a stop to the Hunt brothers? It was the Federal Reserve that got involved with the regulators. Well, because it was a threat to the dollar, silver. Don't forget, the word dollar comes from Joachim's thaler, or the Spanish dollar. So it all goes back to silver and somewhat to gold as well. So I said in the beginning that I don't have any regrets. And maybe you could be thinking of buying silver for the first time, and you might ask, what should I buy? Well, I show you some of the silver that I have, and it doesn't really matter. It's whatever you like. So here I've got a 50 ounce Engelhard silver bar. I've had this for many years. Here actually I have something that I won a golf prize many years ago. This is from 1992. And at the time I wasn't really into silver, but and I didn't really think much about it, but I've looked over the years, and it's 800 silver. It's from Europe. So there you go. I've got some of my golf prizes that are silver. Am I gonna sell them and melt them? No, I probably won't, unless silver goes to $10,000 maybe next week, which is highly unlikely. But even then, I probably wouldn't. There's another one here. That's a 10 ounce Engelhard bar. So you can see the difference here. All sizes. We've got here, this is one of my favorites. It's a kookaburra. This is a 10 ounce coin. So there you go. It's got the late queen, for those of you who are into monarchy. And interestingly as well, I've got a florin from 1936, which is 2 shillings from Australia. That's 925. And I've got also the new US Eagles 1 ounce, which are hard to get, not hard to get, but very high premiums. So that's one of the reasons why I like silver, because I just like silver. And aside from being a precious metal, I spoke about a month ago exactly, June 14th, I made a video because I started reading and following this Chinese analyst on Twitter. And I spoke about the impending silver resource extinction crisis. And I recommend you watch that. The fundamentals for silver are really off the charts, really. I think there was also an analyst from, I think it was ANZ Bank. This is what he said about silver, which I found quite interesting. ANZ Bank report, and someone tweeted this out yesterday. We estimate the silver market is entering a period of tightness unseen for decades. This may not be alleviated by higher silver prices. So how high will silver have to go to alleviate the silver tightness? So the other interesting thing here, North Star, who I've had on the channel, he actually did a technical analysis on the silver price in U1, and it seems to be breaking out as well. So that's very interesting there. But now I want to show you some of my analysis of the silver price and also the gold-silver ratio, which I've said many times in the past. We need to see silver outperform gold for not just silver to go into a bull market, but the whole precious metal space. First, I'm going to start with a short-term chart of silver. It's a 1-year chart, and it's a daily chart. Just wanted to show you what's happened in the last previous 2 days compared to what we've seen in the last year or so. And it's encouraging because we've had 2 days of big gains, and very rarely have we seen that in the last 12 months. So that's the first thing. And then on this short-term chart as well, you can see why 26, the level just above 26, it's around 26.12, is so important. And we could easily get there even today, even though I've seen silver is kind of stalled a little bit overnight. But definitely before the end of the month, we could get to 26. And if we close any day or any week let's say, way above 26, somewhere around 26.50, I think that would be very bullish. The other chart I wanted to show you is a very long-term chart going back to the early 70s when silver used to trade below $2. And it's not a logarithmic chart. It's more of a linear chart. But you can see the big teacup and handle. The handle is basically where we've been since the highs in 2011. And I was going through this chart yesterday, drawing it for you, and I kind of saw the move higher in the early 70s, and it looked like there was a trend that we took off from, as you can see there in the maybe 78, 79. It took off from that trend line, and it spiked all the way up to almost 50. It was the Hunt brothers squeeze, and it wasn't just the Hunt brothers that were involved. And the Hunt brothers, they went there just to corner the silver market, I would think, even though they kind of did at the end. They started stacking silver back in the early 70s after Nixon closed the gold window, because they had huge oil revenues, because that's where their family fortune was made, in the oil industry. And they couldn't buy gold because it was banned for Americans up until 1975. So they were stacking physical silver even back then. So they knew the inflation was coming, and that's why they were buying silver. And they got involved with some foreign potentates, if you want to call them that, from the Middle East. Some people speculate they got involved with the Shah of Iran as well. And it's interesting, the Shah of Iran was deposed in the revolution. Was the CIA involved in that? Who knows? But anyway, I saw this trend line, and I said, what if I drag this trend line to the present day? And it's really interesting, because guess where it fell? right on $30 back a couple of 2.5 years ago or so. So I thought that was interesting. And it was also a resistance back in 1987, as you can see, and a little bit of resistance back in 2008. And you can see that in 2010, it blew through that line. And I think that line is really important. And if you go further on the chart, which I haven't got here, by 2030, that line is at 35. So you can see why the 30 is so important, because if we get through 30 now, we could blow right through that trend line, and we could see a huge spike higher. I don't know to where. And the other drawing here is like the kind of pennant we've been forming, and that's why the 26 level is so important, because the top line of the pennant is around 26. The resistance. This, of course, is a quarterly chart, actually. So it's a very long-term chart. And now I want to show you the gold-silver ratio. And of course, many people believe that eventually the gold-silver ratio will go 1-to-1. I'm not too sure about that. I'd be happy with 30-to-1, which is what we saw, as you can see, back in 2011 when silver went to almost 50. And you can see why 80 is such an important level. It's been, in the last 30 years or so, it's been a big resistance. And we're actually dropped just below that yesterday, because silver was up almost 3%, while gold was kept under the cosh, even though the dollar was very weak as well. And that's happened many times in the past. It's really frustrating, because you're seeing the price of gold in sterling and euros go down, the dollar come off. But I think we need to be patient. All the fiat currencies anyway are sinking. So this is a long-term chart of this gold-silver ratio, and you can see that that 80 level is really important, and we've been consolidating. And if we break through that trend line, which we're very close to, we could see continued strength in silver, and I think gold will catch up as well. So this is a weekly chart, and then I've got another one here, which is a little bit more short term. It's like a 10-year chart. So yeah, you can see this pennant or triangle a little more clearly, and why that 80 level seems to be so important. And we're getting to the apex of that triangle, and usually something happens before. So keep an eye on the gold silver ratio, and I will do too. So yeah, and if you're interested and you're thinking about buying silver, check out my affiliates below in the description. In the UK, Gold Investments, of course, you can use my promo code Monaco64. And in the US, you've got ITM Trading and also Miles Franklin. So with that, let's quickly look at the markets this morning, see where they are. It's just going past 8 a.m. London time. So we've got spot gold at 1956. It's down about $4. And it was a frustrating day yesterday, but believe me when I tell you, I've seen it many times before in the last 21 years. And I don't think they're going to succeed in continuing to do this in terms of capping the gold price, even though gold has rebounded quite well from the recent low around 1890 or thereabouts. So yeah, the high today has been overnight is 1965. So that's a new recent high. And the low is around 1955.50. Silver, as I said, has stalled a little bit, but is down only about 13 cents or 0.5%. We're at 24.73. High's been 24.95. And we'll have to see what happens later on today. To the stock market, the Dow futures is down 46 points. NASDAQ is up 12. And the S&P is virtually unchanged. To the currencies, as I said yesterday, the pound really strengthened massively. So did the euro. The dollar index, of course, broke through 100. And as I've said, the dollar index in the short term does impact things, gold, silver, commodities. But if you look at its inception in 1973, it was still, it was at 100. So back then gold was at 85, and now we're almost 2,000. And the dollar's gone nowhere against its major trading partners' currencies. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. They're all sinking versus gold and silver, for that matter. So to the fiat currencies, then the pound is a bit weaker this morning. It's down 0.2%. Yes, it's at 131.12. I think it could go a little further up, but there's a very big resistance, like a trend line coming, a very long-term trend line coming around, I don't know, 33, 34. But anyway, the euro is unchanged at 112.15. The dollar is up 0.2 versus the yen, 138.29. Yeah, and the dollar is down about 0.25% at 7.13 versus the yuan. Interesting, the dollar got up to like 7.25 recently versus the yuan. And some people have noted that, I think it was July 7th, about a week ago, they announced the Russian embassy in Kenya, and then RT said that the BRICS are going to come out with some kind of gold-backed system, be it a trading mechanism of settling accounts, or a currency. I think is still far away. And it's interesting that since then the dollar has dropped quite a bit. Coincidence? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see probably till August 22nd for the BRICS summit. To the other currencies, Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar is down about 0.25% at 68.73. And talking about Australia, just wanted to let you know, I was interviewed yesterday by Nathan Birch. You might have heard of him from Be Invested. He's out out near Sydney, Australia. It was a really nice interview. I will probably publish it here on this channel whenever I get the file from him. I think you enjoy it if you're in Australia, and even if you're elsewhere in the world. Had a really good, nice time with him. The dollar is unchanged versus the loonie at 131.21, and the Kiwi dollar is down about 0.2 at 63.80. Now to the commodities, WTI crude is down about 0.2%, 76.58. And Brent as well is down 0.2 and is trading at 81. So yeah, we've seen crude oil move higher in the last week or so. Platinum is trading at 968 is down about $8. And high-grade copper has picked up a little bit from yesterday when I last spoke. It's down a little bit overnight, but it's at 393. So we'll quickly look at some of the bond markets here. We'll start with the U.S. Treasury market. We've got the 2-year yield up 6 basis points at 467. And the 10-year is up 3 at 379. And now we'll look at the UK gilt government bond. The 2-year yield has come off, but it's up overnight. It's up 10 basis points at 523. The 10-year has come off about 20 basis points from the highs around 470. We're now around 450. And talking about the UK, I saw an interesting story that came out in the FT today, and it's about the UK government inviting MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, to the UK to deepen ties. By deepening ties, I think the UK government means they're going with a begging bowl to the Saudis. And why do I say that? Well, they even admit it, because the FT writes here, asked what would determine the timing of the visit, a UK government official said, and this is not me saying it, it's him, it's more up to them, given we need them more than they need us. Yeah, they've got the money and we're broke, unfortunately, as a government. And why would the Saudis really want to invest here? I think they're going to stay more focused in their neck of the woods. I don't agree with NEOM. I don't know if you've looked at NEOM. It's their new project. One of the projects is this Line City, which I wouldn't want to live in. And some other big projects which probably going to cost like north of $1 trillion, which for them is probably chump change, if I had to guess. So I thought that was interesting. It's up to them, because we need them more than they need us. And there you go. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day and a very good weekend. Take care. Bye.